So when I speak about white women being mindful of taking up spaces among women of color, I'm acknowledging that while class divides are real, and I talked about in this video the class differences between upper class whites and working class whites, and that one in a particularly silly way, I had to be careful not to conflate class privileges with racial privileges, because the class system in America was based on race, and I wrote an article about this last year on my website, drkarlschmidt.com. Because of decisions that were made hundreds of years ago, they're not the same experience intentionally. So still, as a white woman, even though I talked about belonging more with people who are working class, regardless of race and color, I still had to be mindful of how I presented in those environments, and if it was even appropriate for me to be there. To not just be seeking women of color's company to make me feel better about myself, to not be draining them of their energy, to not be dominating the conversation, equating their racial experiences to my class or gender one, to not expect them to comfort me if I get uncomfortable with anything about race, and to do my own work to learn more about cultural context and what is and is not appropriate and what could offend somebody even if it doesn't offend me. Difference isn't bad. If you follow me in my research on the unwritten rules of work, you've heard me say probably that the problem with the idea of unwritten rules is that there's one right way to do things, and so we miss out on everything else. And so when we are okay with hearing that about things like class and neurodivergence, but we're not okay with hearing things like that about race and gender, I think that shows where our biases are. And I'm not saying that's where you're at. I think you asked, an authentic question, but this is the internet, so people are going to be people. I'm answering this question because you asked me on my video, but there are really better people to follow about this particular question if you want to learn more. White Woman Whisper being one of the ones I see the most on this platform, but Black women have been talking about this. And I actually, right after this article on my blog, I wrote another one where I credited some of the authors I just referenced on their discussions on white women.